Your body may be tired tonight, but your mind is still trying to keep going, still replaying little things, still returning to conversations, still thinking about tomorrow, still feeling as though there's just one more thing that you need to work out before you can properly rest. You do not have to solve tomorrow tonight. Just let your mind come down slowly with me. Hello, my lovely. Welcome back to ASMR with Margaret. Tonight, this session is for you if your mind still feels busy, even though the day is over. Maybe your thoughts have been jumping from one thing to another. Maybe you have been going back over something that somebody said. Maybe you are already thinking ahead to tomorrow, making little lists in your mind, trying to remember everything, trying to work out what might happen next, and perhaps you are thinking, but the thoughts keep returning. So tonight, you do not need to force your mind to be quiet. You do not need to push your thoughts away. You do not need to become frustrated with yourself. We are simply going to let everything slow down gently. Just one thought at a time, one quiet moment at a time. So stop solving tomorrow, tonight. You do not need to solve tomorrow, tonight. You do not need to decide everything before you sleep. You do not need to work through every possibility. You do not need to rehearse every conversation over and over. You do not need to find the perfect answer. You do not need to remember everything be time for you to do this tomorrow. There will be times you can make decisions. There will be time you can write things down. There'll be time to deal with whatever needs your attention. But this moment does not need to be another planning session. This moment is allowed to be quiet, and simple. This moment is allowed to be enough. I'm just going to begin with some slow hand movements. Very gentle, very unhurried, just allowing your mind to rest against something soft and steady. You do not need to concentrate. You do not need to follow every word. No. You can simply notice the movements. Notice the rhythm. Notice the space between the words. And every time a thought appears, you do not need to chase it. No. You do not need to answer it. No. You do not need to finish it. You can let it pass by, just like a small cloud moving through the sky. You can notice it and just let it move on by. Let it move on by, and then the softness comes back to slow the rhythm down. Come back to this moment. So why does the mind keep going? Well, sometimes the mind thinks that there's still something important to do. It wants to check and tick off that one more thing. Remember, one more thing. Just work out one more thing. And then prepare for one more. It may return to the same thought again and again. There's no thinking about it. Just one more time might finally make it feel settled. No, it doesn't need to finish every thought. It does not need to find every answer. It does not need to keep scanning for what comes next. It's allowed to pause. It's allowed to leave some questions unanswered. It's allowed to stop working for the night. You can come back to those thoughts tomorrow. Come back when the morning is here. Not now. Not in this moment. You do not need to solve it tonight. You do not need to rehearse tomorrow. You do not need to replay the conversation. You do not need to find the perfect answer. You do not need to remember everything right now. You do not need to finish every thought. You can leave some things for tomorrow. And you can let your mind slow down gently. There is no rush. There is nothing you need to force. There is no test you have to pass. You can simply let the words become softer, and allow the space between your thoughts to become wider. I am now going to gently clear some of that mental clutter. Very softly, just moving through the thoughts that have been circling. The things you need to remember and the things you want to say. The things that you wish you had said differently. The things that you might need to do tomorrow. The little questions that keep coming back. You do not need to organise them right now. No. You do not need to make sense of thoughts. Not of every thought, no. You do not need to sort out anything. No, nothing. You can let them become quieter. Quieter. Less urgent. Less demanding. A little further away. Like words fading from a page. Like a list becoming softer at the edges. Like the volume inside your mind being turned down gently. Let tomorrow stay in tomorrow. Tomorrow will still be there when you wake up. The things that you need to remember, they will still be there. The decisions will still be there. The conversations, they'll still be there too. You are not forgetting anything important by resting. You are not ignoring anything. You are simply choosing not to solve it at night. You can stay where tomorrow belongs. Not in this room. Not in this moment. Not inside every little thought. Tomorrow does not need to arrive early. You do not need to practice tomorrow before it happens. You do not need to live the next day before this one has ended. This one has ended. This one has ended. You can let the night be the night. Be the night. And let tomorrow wait quietly. Mental lists can wait. Maybe your mind likes to make lists at night. Things to do, things to buy, messages to send. Appointments to remember. Things you should not forget. And perhaps one thought leads to another, and then another, and it just goes on and on until suddenly your mind feels busier than it did during the day. But you do not need to keep the whole list open in your mind. No, you can gently close it. Not delete it. Not lose it. Just close it. Close it for now. Just like closing a notebook. Like putting a pen down. And like turning off a little light in an empty room. Empty room, empty room. The list can wait. The list can wait. The reminders, they too can wait. And the planning can wait. There is nothing else you need to organise tonight. No, nothing else tonight. There's no need to follow every thought. A thought may appear, and that's okay. But you don't need to feel frustrated when it happens. When it happens, you do not need to start again. No. You do not need to judge yourself. No, don't judge yourself. No, a thought can appear, and you can just let it pass. Just let it pass. And then another thought can appear. And you can just let that one pass. Let it pass by. You do not need to follow it all the way to the end. You do not need to ask where it came from. You do not need to work out why it appeared. No. You can just notice it and then let it drift away. And then gently come back to the sound of my voice, Come back to the slow movements. Come back to the quiet. Come back to the little spaces between the words. Just allowing the sound to move gently. Moving gently around you now. From one side to the other. Very softly. Very slowly. You may notice that you do not need to listen to every word. You may notice that the thoughts becoming less interesting. You may even notice that your mind is no longer trying. It's not trying quite so hard to finish things. You do not need to answer it. You do not need to keep it. You do not need to follow it. Just let it pass. And then come back to the sound. Come back to the softness. Come back to the quiet. Nothing needs to be decided right now. Nothing needs to be organised right now. Nothing needs to be remembered right now. And nothing needs to be rehearsed right now. Nothing needs to be explained right now. And nothing needs to be analysed right now. Nothing needs to be solved. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to leave the thought unfinished. You are allowed to let that question wait. Wait. You are allowed to stop planning. You are allowed to stop checking. You are allowed to stop replaying. You are allowed to rest. Slowly. Gently, one little thought at a time. Imagine each thought is written on a small piece of paper. Some have reminders on them, and some have questions. Some have little worries, and some have things you need to do tomorrow. Some have words from conversations that you keep replaying. And instead of reading every piece of paper again and again, you can simply place them down beside you, one by one. You don't need to throw them away, and you don't need to decide whether they matter. You do not need to organise them into perfect order. No, just place them down This one can wait. It can wait. It can wait. It can wait. And so can the other one. They can all wait. There will be time tomorrow. Time tomorrow. But not now. But not now. Not tonight. Tonight you can leave the papers where they are. And you can let your hands become still. And let your mind become quieter, quieter, quieter. Letting all the words on the page gently fade into the background, the background, the background. Only spaces between the thoughts, well, they become slower and longer. You may begin to notice the spaces now, the small spaces between one thought and the small spaces between another thought. You do not need to make those spaces bigger, no. You do not need to force anything. Just notice them. A small, quiet moment. A small, quiet moment. And then another pause. A little softness. And a little more room. And perhaps the thoughts are still there, but they are not quite as loud. Shh, shh, shh. Not quite as close, not quite as demanding. They can move further into the background, the background, the background, the background, the background, and you can stay here with the sound. With the quiet. With a pause. You do not need to solve it tonight. You can leave it until tomorrow. You do not need to replay it over and over again. You do not need to decide anything. You do not need to finish the thought. You can let the question wait. You can stop planning now. You can stop checking. You can let your mind slow down. Slow down gently, slow down gently. no pressure. Just rest. I'm going to make these movements slower now. And a little quieter. You do not need to listen closely. You do not need to stay awake to the end. You do not need to follow every word. Just allow the sound to move around you slowly, softly, letting all the mental noise become more distant. Letting all those lists fade, and letting all those questions fade. Letting all those conversations end, and letting tomorrow remain in tomorrow. You do not need to solve anything right now. Nothing too organised, nothing to rehearse, nothing to replay, nothing to solve. Let the thoughts pass. Let the question wait. Let tomorrow stay tomorrow. You have thought enough for today. You can rest now. Rest. you can drift.